very nervous. We are amongst friends.
Well, I mean, that's... I think we're getting our answers. We lived in a cul-de-sac, and I talked to people there, and whenever the conversation about things like race or things like immigration and stuff came up, people were saying the same things then as they're saying now. Pretty sure it was Golden Dawn. I'll double check. But anyway, the guy that was in charge of them, their party leader, was openly saying, no, this isn't a migrant crisis, this isn't a humanitarian crisis, which at the time is what it was. This is an invasion. Hey, how you doing, everyone? You doing good? Cool. Okay. I have become re-obsessed with UK politics recently. I drifted away from it for a little while, especially since Trump came into power, obviously where I live now, the situation between Canada and the United States. That kind of became my obsession. But I'm now back looking at the UK, and when this video popped up inside Yorkshire's migrant protests, I figured, okay, well, that's where I grew up. Yorkshire. Yorkshire born and bred. So, we're having a look.
Behind every hotel protest are people.
The smiles here is masking the anger.
Typically wary of media and distrustful of authority.
They would appeal, wouldn't they? They're scared.
We've been given candid access to speak to those involved.
Right off the bat. It's not a red flag, but it's definitely like a yellow flag. When someone says they're distrustful of media and authority, yet they're passionate enough and angry enough to get out and protest, they're getting their information from somewhere. It's not by osmosis. They're not just sat in their rooms and, oh, I have a feeling. They're watching something, they're reading something. So the question then becomes, what are they reading and what are they watching? They're trusting something enough to make them want to act.
We've got to give you a chance.
Branded racist and far right.
They're calling you Nazi scum.
I couldn't care less what they call me.
Protests outside asylum seeker hotels are growing in intensity, drawing some who've never protested before. We're going to see Dinah Bentley, a retired teacher. She went to her first hotel protest last week in Wakefield, West Yorkshire, close to where she lives.
Hello, hi, Dana, thank you so much.
Are you all right with
Yes,
dogs?
I'm fine with dogs.
Come
Hello.
on through.
How are you feeling? You're not too nervous, I hope.
No, all right. I know I should be. I should be very nervous. We are amongst friends.
Well, I mean, that's... I think we're getting our answers.
Right.
I know it can be a little bit controversial, the fact that I don't laud him, but I admire him.
Is that a permanent fixture or is that just for us?
That is permanent.
What is it about? No.
It's... Okay. They have a... Okay. The fact that it's permanent, I don't care who it is. The fact that they have a permanent politician there tells me something.
Nigel Farage that you like?
But I set all my hopes on him and reform because we're in such a mess.
What is it that he says that sort of resonates with you?
He says what I believe, what I think.
Which is?
And everybody talks about the migration, but our country's ruined. They've ruined it. It's an invasion, isn't it?
Again, the word invasion. I'll say it before and I'll say it again. The first time I heard someone use that word invasion in reference to the migrant situation, where people were fleeing from Syria when the civil war started, pretty sure it was Golden Dawn. I'll double check. But anyway, the guy that was in charge of them, their party leader, was openly saying, no, this isn't a migrant crisis, this isn't a humanitarian crisis, which at the time is what it was. This is an invasion. So when these people say, oh, we don't trust the media, but you're outwardly calling stuff an invasion, like I said, you're getting it from somewhere.
And they shouldn't be here.
Dinah is 78, a grandmother of 2. She's never been to a migration-related protest before. Understanding why this one and why now, for her, is as much about the past as it is about the present.
Great Uncle Alfred, who was my grandma's brother, he was blown up in 1916. He died for our country, and if he could see what's happening
Was
to
it
it
World
now,
War One then, 1916?
and if he was in a grave, he would spin. I'm getting emotional now.
Why is it making you feel emotional?
I'd love to ask these people, honestly, because, I mean, West Yorkshire is where I'm from. When they say, oh, we've destroyed the country, we've ruined it, and they reference her, relatives from World War One, and it's, oh, if we could see it today, they'd spit in their grave looking at what we've done to it. What exactly does she mean by that? People need to go into detail about this. What do you actually mean?
Can't say.
What she means is basically is that, and I'm just going to say it, what she's saying is that there are too many brown people in the UK. That's what she means.
Sorry, I didn't expect that to happen.
Well, I'm sorry that we've made you cry, but it's obvious this is something you feel very strongly about. I mean, in some way, do you feel like would you call this a fight?
A fight? It is a fight for survival. Not a physical fight, but it's a mental fight for survival.
What does that mean? What, you mean economically? You mean racially? You mean culturally? What do you mean by that?
So, what do you mean by
Yeah, good. Ask the question. Follow it up.
that?
Instead of government ministers paying lip service to the people of this country and saying some things that they think we would like to hear, actions speak louder than words. And I think very little is being done, and what is being done is dire.
Yeah, okay, you need to go more into it. What do you mean? Okay, yeah, of course. Bloody hell, we're buggered now. Keep calm and Brexit.
We are advised not to go.
These are the people, I'm not being funny. I mean, I grew up around these sorts of people. These are the sort of people where if you said to them, they go, oh, we need a Brexit, we need to do a Brexit. And you go, okay, can you name for me, say, a handful of rules or regulations which the UK is forced to abide by, which we'll be able to do if we leave the European Union? And they couldn't tell you any. They'll talk about bananas, because at some point that was a big thing, like sort of quality checks for bananas. But that's about it. In James O'Brien, there's a fantastic bit on this. I'll link it somewhere.
To Somalia because it's a dangerous country.
Right.
Yet we are accepting some men from Somalia into this country. They're undocumented. We know nothing about them. We don't know where they are, wandering the streets.
Well, you do know where they are because they're stuck in hotels. This is the thing that kind of bugs me. I mean, I agree people shouldn't be in hotels. I mean, optically it's not very good, but the reason why they're there is because you have to put them somewhere. You need a place that has lots of rooms. The government was a bit more forward-thinking. They'd probably build dedicated places to hold people while they're being processed, or alternatively, keep track of them but let them work so at least they're paying for themselves.
It's not right, is it? Why are they not seeking asylum in the first safe country? Well, we know why, because when they get here, they're getting everything for free. And we are paying for it.
You say the government aren't listening.
What
But
do you
the
want them
government
to
have
do?
said that they hope to shut all the asylum hotels, stop illegal crossings,
Talk.
send people back.
It's all talk. Previous governments have said exactly the same thing and done nothing.
At what point would you believe that they are listening to you?
What people like this ultimately want is to go back to their childhood. In a way, emotionally, that's it. There's a yearning to go back to their childhood where things felt easier and simpler. That's why she got emotional thinking about it, because she was reflecting, thinking, oh, there was a past where for me things felt safe.
If I can't even bear to watch migrant dinghies landing. I can't bear to watch them. I would be happy if the Navy went into the Channel. We're an island, for God's sake, and stopped the boats. That would make me over the moon.
Dinah tells us she thinks people were.
I'm pretty sure they do that. The Coast Guard does do that. The Coast Guard identifies a boat. They're required to sort of grab it and then they have to bring it in. And the reason they have to bring it in is because we don't have an agreement with France to send it back to France. And you can't just leave it in the middle of the channel because, people die. I don't like the migrant crossings. I think it's incredibly dangerous, it's incredibly risky, and there should be a more efficient system of managing, tracking, and processing people.
Frightened to say what they really think about migration. No more, she says.
We're on our way to see a man called James. Now, he used to be in the army, he used to be a police officer. He doesn't do that anymore, he's now a truck driver. But over the past few months, he's also become, by his own admission, fairly notorious in his local area because of what he's trying to do with a volunteer-led community group.
We meet James at home. He was initially sceptical to speak to a journalist from the so-called mainstream media.
There you go. I said it right from the very beginning. Whenever people say they're skeptical about the media, what they really mean is they don't trust any large, verifiable institution. That's what they mean. I guarantee you this guy follows any number of random accounts on Twitter, random accounts on Kik, follows channels on YouTube, and that's where he gets all his information from.
It's not impartial. It's not impartial. And the big thing is, a lot of the guys and women that go to these protests, we're working class and it's our streets.
It's not impartial. I'm sorry, if you're looking at reform, by definition, that is incredibly partial.
It's our community that gets trounced. It's our housing that's taken. If you're liberal, upper middle class, it doesn't affect you. Your type of immigrant is different to our type of immigrant.
What do you mean by that?
That's a good question. What do you mean by that?
Your type of immigrant is educated. It's a well-to-do immigrant. It's either a surgeon or a banker or an engineer. Our immigrant is the low end of the low. That's what we find. We get the dross, we get the criminals that the other countries don't want.
That's a Donald Trump reference right there. About the world dumps their asylum, their crazies, their thieves, their criminals into the United States. So it's basically the same rhetoric we're seeing in the UK now too.
It's this belief that's led James to found what he's called a local community watch group. He says it'll tackle all antisocial behaviour, but with a focus on what he calls illegal migrant men with conflicting cultures. In just a few weeks, the group's drawn hundreds.
That's a fancy way of saying brown people, by the way, for anyone who's interested.
Of followers online, but others say the group and James himself isn't just divisive, but dangerous.
The aim is to provide a gentle presence within the community, not to be intrusive. But if we see any crime, whether that's illegal,
basically vigilanteism,
crime, or whether it's our local residents committing crime, we will intervene. We're not there to be judge, jury.
Well, you are.
An executioner.
By the way, I haven't got a problem with communities getting involved with things, but that's not I don't think that's what this guy's talking about.
We'll just detain people, assess the situation and...
Okay, you don't have a right to detain. That's crazy. If a fight starts, by all means, split it up. This guy's talking about going around in groups and detaining people, which I'm pretty sure is illegal. I think that's false imprisonment.
On the police if needed.
You said this isn't a vigilante group, but you've just described it as a group.
Yeah, he's described a vigilante group.
That will intervene
and detain.
Assess a situation, possibly detain someone based on that assessment. Yes. Is that not what vigilantism is?
No, that's what normal English blokes used to do in times of old.
In times of old? In times of old, the lords of the land used to have the right to have sex with the women when they got married. So they'd have first rights to her, okay? So invoking this in times of old, we did this, and so we're simply bringing it back. Well, no, there's a what is it you're actually trying to do is the question.
It's only a modern version of that. We're aware of a...
So vigilantism is an old version of that.
Specific threat that we've got now that's been imposed on us by successive governments of illegal migrant men with incompatible cultures and values moving into our areas.
What do you mean by incompatible values?
Oh, this should be interesting. I'm so curious to hear this.
They come from cultures that aren't as civilised as ours. We've got laws that's been set in stone for hundreds of years. Now, they served us, but they don't seem to adhere to our laws. And because of the cultural differences, as in assaults on children and women, that they believe that that's fine in their cultures. Well, it's not here.
I don't think any culture accepts that sexual assaults on women and children are legitimate and okay. Is this not just a sort of a gross generalisation? I
do accept that. However, by default, with having these illegal migrant men within the country, by default they're already criminal because they've entered the country through illegal means.
Okay, because the UK is signed up to the Refugee Charter, if someone enters the country, even if they don't enter through a legal port, they're still allowed to put forward their case and be reviewed. Now, you can argue that that process is too slow, needs to be sped up, it's too inefficient. You know, there definitely needs to be a different approach. The boats definitely need to stop, so we have to figure that one out. That's all fine. What UK law, I believe, says, like most countries, is unless you're a citizen, you don't have the legal right to just walk in. However, if I was to just walk into a country and go, look, I'm looking for a job, I'd be kicked out, okay? Or something else along those lines. The exemption is if you have a genuine fear of persecution or death if you go back, at which point you're allowed to be reviewed.
And not through the regular channels. The local communities round here, they've suffered enough when the pit's closed, the mine's closed. Nothing's replaced that. It's just left a void, and we've had criminality moving. And that's our homegrown criminality, whether it's drugs, violence, theft.
This is true. I'm very sympathetic towards that. When Thatcher closed down a lot of the large industry, nothing came in to replace it. It was primarily services operating out the south. So if you live in Northern England, that there isn't really an industry or collection of large industries where you could learn a skill and pull yourself up, as it were.
We don't need any more criminality from other cultures. We've got enough to deal with. And like I said before, the police haven't the will to fight our own crime.
After leaving the army and the police, James set up a groundwork business just outside Wakefield. But he had £70,000 worth of his equipment stolen, a crime he says the police didn't investigate properly.
Okay, so that's... I can understand why he's angry, but that's where a lot of the presupposition comes from.
In the weeks that followed, he himself got a police caution for a public order offence. Unable to work, he couldn't pay his rent and became homeless.
Okay, right. I'm getting a sense of the picture now. And I'm sympathetic to a lot of it. It is true. Thatcher did cause a lot of damage. There's no doubt about that, historically. The guy's public order offence, I mean, you brought that on yourself, mate. No disrespect.
Trying to get housing and get sorted was quite difficult during that time. And when I was in the emergency housing office at Wakefield, I sat there for hours and I observed that 3 foreign families, 3 Moroccan families got serviced with housing and what they needed. And then by the time that 4:30 came, I was advised, no, we're shutting shop up, mate, you'll have to come back tomorrow. That was a bit of a pill to swallow.
Well, it depends. The question is he single and childless? If the answer to that is no, there's a family there that needs housing, understandably, there's a priority given. If the answer is just a single man, then a family will be prioritised because the goal is to get the family off the streets. Now, you can ask the question whether or not that's fair or not. Personally, I think that in terms of giving priority, people with kids should be given a priority. But I mean, it's describing his life. It's describing what he's seen. What he's seen is his local area is basically be deteriorated over decades, which is true. Successive governments have not done enough to reintroduce skills, high-end industry, higher margin industry to the north of England. That is also true. I get it, but here's the problem. When he talks about families, they weren't allowed in because they're Moroccan. That's not why they were given priority. They were given priority because they're a family.
Has it sort of fueled you in a way?
Yes.
Because this can't be easy, what you're doing. People calling you a racist. calling you Islamophobe?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Why is it fine to be called a racist, to be called an Islamophobe, a xenophobe? I mean, I assume you'd say you were none of those things.
Of course, I'm none of those things, but it's only names, and they've been called to so many people that they don't have any substance anymore. There's nothing in it. If any member,
I think there is some truth to that. I've often commented that I think the left has overused the accusation of being a fascist against so many people for so long that when an actual fascist steps up, no one pays attention. We're seeing the effect of that, quite frankly, and increasingly seeing it across Europe as well, because people just don't believe it when it's said anymore. It's lost its bite. It's lost its edge. Like, the accusation's supposed to mean something. It's supposed to be social, like, whoa, like, careful. It's supposed to have weight to it. And unfortunately, we've taken all of the weight out of it now. And it's just light and flimsy and means nothing, which is a real shame.
members of this group think it's a resurrection of the EDL and they've got another thing coming. We don't want any racist people. We don't want ethno-national people. It's not that kind of movement. It's a peaceful movement, but if needs be, we'll stand as ground and we'll prevent crime.
But, I'm just going to say this, you felt that the Moroccan families being put ahead of you because their families was a problem. I'd love if people dug a bit more into that. I really, really would. I'd have so many questions on that. How he thinks about it, how he feels about it, what was his perception, you know?
We're not here to commit crime.
A few days later, we joined Dinah again, heading to her second hotel protest in Wakefield.
I'm not being funny, but she looked like she's doing all right for herself. I mean, she had a fair amount of land and a decent house. Like, that's not nothing. She's done incredibly well. Either very upper working class or middle class.
I think it would probably be busier this week. I think it's probably had not more interest, but it's been promoted more.
Cedar Court Hotel has been used to house asylum seekers for several years. Protests and counter-protests advertised on social media began a few weeks ago.
How does it feel to be here?
Wonderful. We've put up with so much for so long, and I think ordinary people now, they saw the light a long time ago, but they've decided it's no good sitting doing nothing.
There is something I kind of want to talk about. When I was a kid, when I was growing up in Yorkshire, this is West Yorkshire actually, we lived in a cul-de-sac and I talked to people there, and whenever the conversation about things like race or things like immigration and stuff came up, people were saying the same things then as they're saying now. But the problem back then is they weren't talking about refugees. They weren't even talking about immigration. They were talking about basically brown people who lived in Yorkshire who had been there for several generations. So it's just an extension of that. You know, it's always been there. Always been there.
To go out there and show our feelings, and that's why I'm here. Peaceful, but do something. Words are no good. Action.
I've been to get government to sit up and take notice of ordinary working people. Nobody wants to be here. I feel quite a little bit frightened being here.
Frightened of what?
Just the atmosphere and everything, being put in a position that you have to come and join a protest to try and get the government to listen to you. I'm a 60-year-old mum, I work 40 hours a week, and nobody gives me anything free. You just want fairness.
Over on that side, they're calling you Nazi scum. How that can't feel
Sticks
nice.
and stones. Sticks and stones could break my bones. I know what I am. I don't value their opinion, so I couldn't care less what they call me.
I mean, I don't think these people are Nazis or fascists or anything like that. I genuinely do think these are working class, just regular working class people. I do mean that. I just think there has been an absolute failure in terms of policy and management and also communication, actually communicating and talking to people and sort of saying, hey, look, this is how things are, this is how things work. I mean, optically, it was always going to be a massive problem putting people into hotels in working class areas, because it was always going to breed resentment, because it just, oh, why have they put these people in hotels being paid for by the government when I'm struggling to make a living? Because as I've said before, the economics in these parts of the country is really quite bad. That was always going to cause friction, always. And it hasn't been addressed, and it hasn't been dealt with, and it does need to be.
Because I know what I am.
James is here too, greeted by some fellow protesters as somewhat of a hero for setting up his community group.
This is Dinah.
We introduce him to Dinah.
All right.
So pleased to meet you.
And yourself, thank you.
I know you're a veteran.
How important is it to the message that people here are trying to get across, that it's not just what this sort of stereotypical, not stereotype, but ex-vet, big guys like yourself, and that it is, grandmas like Dinah coming out?
But with every veteran, you've got family members, you've got female family members. It makes it more palatable and more approachable when it's not all men. Men can be intimidating.
When I last met both of you,
There really has been a massive push for years and years and years, decades, that, a certain type of person, by their nature, is just a sexual predator of women and children. And this has been pushed out very, very aggressively. So now when people talk about it, when they, women here sort of saying things like, people who come from this part of the world are like this, your racial characteristics are not an extension of your culture, if that makes any sense at all. Human beings are not like bees and ants, or bees and wasps, where certain races of people make honey and other races of people sting and hurt. Like that's not how it works.
just been the Epping Council ruling, but since then the government has said that they're going to try and appeal that.
Well,
what did you think?
Wouldn't they? They would appeal, wouldn't they? They're scared. Because I think they've realised that people's voices are being heard.
The smiles here and the good attitude and the positivity is masking the anger of what's happened to the English.
Okay, what has happened to the English? The English are one of the most successful groups of people on the world. I mean, North America's full of the English.
People are angry. People know that once they're out of here, they're going to be put in the community. What happens then, who knows?
It's a fearful situation, isn't it? It is a fearful situation. There are plenty of places that, as a woman, I wouldn't go on my own. And I've got 2 granddaughters.
Okay, again, I'm going to say it again. To me, what this highlights is a massive failure to communicate and have the conversation and discuss and present the data. And also connect on an emotional level with these people. It's like, okay, they genuinely think that right now there is a horde of invading men held up in a hotel being paid for by the government at their expense, braced to be released onto their community to attack their kids. That's what these people think. And there's been a successive push to make them think that. And there hasn't been enough done, especially by the government and by local communities, to have the conversation, say, okay, let's actually have a chat about this. Let's discuss what's actually going on, you know?
I fear for them. What's the legacy that we're leaving for the next generations?
Dinah and James are 2 of many thousands of protesters who share a sense of being ignored or written off as extreme. Over the coming weeks, we will speak to counter-protesters to hear what they think about what feels for many a fearful and uncertain time.
Hey, the Yorkshire flag! Okay, everyone, thanks very much. Again, if you've made it this far, do not forget to like and subscribe, and do not forget to check out the rest of my channel. Thanks very much.